Hi guys, I have Rob Dwyer today with me. We recently got acquainted. Rob is customer service specialist, and I was lucky enough to participate in one of his podcasts. I know you will be sure to like this video that you have on PissedConsumer channel. I would ask you to visit Rob Dwyer's podcast channel and YouTube channel. You'll find the links below underneath this video. Why are customer services more inclined to have chat rather than voice conversation?
A lot of companies think that agents can handle more chats at a time than they can phone calls. And so they see some cost savings there. Maybe I can have an agent handle 3 to 5 chats. Now, from a consumer standpoint, sometimes I might prefer to chat. Maybe it's because I'm multitasking. I know I've used chat in the past, and I like it because I might be doing something else. And when you're on the phone, you really kind of need your full attention. So there is definitely some consumer demand. I think the other reason is, and this is going to become more and more prevalent, is the use of chat bots to augment actual humans, right? And as a consumer, you may not know until it becomes glaringly obvious that I'm not actually chatting with a person, I'm chatting with a machine. And that can actually still be okay if it's a good chatbot and I have the right expectations and my problem is not very complicated, then that can work out for me. But if I have the wrong expectations, that can go downhill in a hurry. And if I have something that's very complicated, I may not be able to find resolution through a chatbot, which is just going to frustrate me. And then I'm going to be frustrated by the time I actually get to a real human.
You know why I prefer chat over phone when I have a need to contact customer service? I hate voice prompt systems in large organizations before I get to the agent.
Hello?
Increase in usage of ChatGPTs, companies will get much greater capacity to handle customer service requests, and they will not care as much about quality because they have capacity to handle quality, to handle negativity, and that will have wrong effects on consumers. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. We are in a moment right now where there's a lot of new technology that people are really excited about, and they're trying to figure out how they can implement. What's going to happen is some companies are going to get it wrong. They're going to implement things. It's going to go south, and it will be maybe a small disaster, maybe a big disaster. We'll see what happens, right? More thoughtful companies are going to take a more measured approach. There's an advantage to being first to market with a product, but there's an advantage to being a laggard when it comes to how you go about serving your customers and the channels that you use. Yeah, I may be able to save some money by implementing technology that allows me to reduce the headcount in my support center, the number of people I have answering customer service emails and chats and phone calls. But if my customers are getting the wrong information or bad information or feel like it's a bad experience, there's a bigger risk to the long-term brand reputation that you're putting on the line with a technology that, quite honestly, like, we are just at the very forefront of it. And I think while we need to, take a look and see, hey, what problems can we solve with this? The rush to implement it into customer service is probably a little misguided.
Do you know that some local courts are considering using ChatGPTs to issue judgments?
We've already seen, Michael, an attorney who used ChatGPT, and it cited a case that it made up from whole cloth. And that attorney is actually in some pretty hot water now, because the arguments that were made in a court of law were based off of quote unquote case law that didn't exist. And that is a big problem with ChatGPT right now, is that, and other large language models, I shouldn't just say ChatGPT, right? There are others out there. It's certainly got the most of the press. But the way that these models work, they are language models. They have studied language through the internet, and they are trying to respond to whatever prompts you give it in a way that is readable and communicates in natural language. They are not yet good at giving accurate information. They can do some really cool stuff, but when it comes to accuracy, there are a lot of issues, and that's the piece that I think companies need to be wary of. How do I ensure that this technology just doesn't make stuff up to my customers?
How does a company behave in cases of aggravated customers, right? What are the policies that you see out there? Which are the good ones? Which are the bad ones?
I think the first thing that a company can do is really help their frontline people who are interacting with the customers every day understand the importance of that relationship with a customer and give some trust to those people to do what's right. We get hung up on, when you get to a certain size, often we get hung up on policy, right? And so we stick out policies and we say, well, this is how you handle this, and this is how you handle that. And the reality is, most policies, and there are exceptions, but most policies should be guidelines. And those guidelines, sometimes it makes sense to step out of the line for a particular customer to make a situation right by them, to really rectify whatever has gone wrong. And sometimes a relationship restoration doesn't mean, as a company, that I'm going to make money on that particular transaction. What it can mean, though, is that in the eyes of that consumer, I lived up to my promise, whatever that was, and that and you even see this on online reviews, and I know that people see this on PissedConsumer when companies actually do reach out and rectify an issue, that the review changes, and that becomes a part of the story. Yeah, okay, maybe my product wasn't great or the service wasn't great, but this is how they took care of me. This is how they rectified that. And when I see that as a consumer, I know that, well, maybe not everyone knows this, but look, companies are going to stub their toes, right? They're going to screw up from time to time. When I see the companies that screw up, but then fix it and work directly with the consumer to make it right, those are the companies that I go, okay, well, I trust that company. Because even when things went wrong, they took care of the customer. And so I would say, number one, empower your employees to do that, to understand, what the guidelines are. And even if they don't have the power to fix something, encourage them to escalate things to someone who does have the power to make that change. Because it may be, this is outside my power, right? Maybe I have a certain amount that I can refund on a given transaction, and this is going to be more than that. Well, right? Encourage them to go talk to their supervisor, and if it needs to go up from there, let it go up from there. those kinds of behaviors by brands and their customer service are the kinds of things that people remember.
Align customer service. They have policies, they abide by those policies, they cannot step left or right. Does the manager have the same policies, or they have guidelines to work by? Or they have wider policies to work by?
Yeah.
How does it work?
I mean,
Why does it work sometimes? Why doesn't it work sometimes?
I mean, it depends on the organization. And this is where, unfortunately, brands have trained consumers to have certain expectations, right? And so we've had enough interactions as consumers with companies when we have a problem, and we hear that frontline agent say, well, that's just the policy. There's nothing I can do. And then we get really pissed off. We ask to speak to a manager, and the manager is able to do something that frontline agent either couldn't or wouldn't do. And so if that happens enough times as a consumer, that's my expectation. My expectation is I need to talk to someone else. And that's where I think the brands serve themselves better by giving some leeway and some discretion to their frontline agents, so that less people feel like, hey, I need to escalate this because this person isn't going to.
Typical customer service organization. What is a good process within the corporation, within the company, to pass in input from consumers through customer service into the production or operational lines of the company? Have you seen good examples, and have you seen bad examples?
Depending on the size of your organization, maybe that is kind of where you are if you're a really small business. Today, one of the things that I'm involved with is a product called Happitu, and it's a speech analytics and sentiment analysis platform. And so one of the things that we're doing with that is we're analyzing all of these customer interactions and highlighting the main things that people are calling about, identifying the trends, and doing it in a way where we're taking in like 100% of these interactions, which you can't do with a human. So that's kind of like the most advanced way, is to use a platform that is digging in and analyzing all of these interactions, be they voice calls, emails, chats, social media, right? There are platforms out there that do that today.
Thank you very much, Rob, for your answer. And as we conclude this wonderful interview, I would like to ask you if you have any final message that you would like to share with this consumer crowd. Please share it.
If you approach your needs with a little bit of empathy for the person that you're talking to, and remember that they're a human being, there's a much better chance of you both arriving at that resolution, whatever that is, than if you come at it guns blazing, so to speak. So that is the best advice that I can give out there, is if you've got a problem, start being nice with the people that can potentially help you. And hopefully you don't end up at PissedConsumer.com.